Welcome to the Natural Healing Show. Keep it natural with the Natural Healing Show.
Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at my websites, catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our special guest today is Johannes Fisslinger. Johannes Fisslinger, you'll currently find him in Germany, and he is the founder of Lifestyle Prescriptions University. You can find out more about Johannes Fisslinger and his wonderful work at two websites, healthywealthy.net, and that's healthy, wealthy with an I on each end, healthywealthy.net, and lifestyleprescriptions.tv. Welcome, Johannes Fisslinger.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Can't wait to share, talk, and have a really great discussion with you.
All right, so Johannes Fisslinger, in your work, you talk about the 6 root causes of all chronic disease. In your professional opinion, what are the 6 root causes of all chronic disease?
Well, they are very specific. And if you don't mind, I'd like to step back a little bit and look at the big picture, because, I mean, the wonderful news is that your audience is very educated, right? They know about natural, integrative, also lifestyle medicine, right? Though what we've been doing over the last, I mean, I'm in this field for like 35, 40 years by now. I started really young, right? Because of my own health issues. And so that kind of motivated me to learn, to study, right? And especially over the last 10 years, I've did a lot of things in aura, energy, biofeedback, right? You probably have seen these aura machines, the aura video. I developed my last life, whenever that was, 30 years ago. And so then, but I was really frustrated that actually, you know, there's more, there needs to be more, there needs to be like this intelligence of our body, right? What is that? Because in natural medicine, we know there is this intelligence that actually self-healing is part of nature, right? Every system in nature heals automatically if we allow it to happen. And so these 6 root causes are basically, we developed them over many years with a lot of different experts involved, right? But they're very specific. And before I go into them, I'd like to talk about biology, right? Because a lot of in our field, right? Every day I talk to, in our university, we teach naturopath, we have doctors, we have traditional medicine practitioners that study with us, because we offer now, since about a year or two, degree programs, a master's and a PhD doctorate, right? And in lifestyle medicine and health coaching. Hi, all the health coaches out there. Now, the reason why we did this is because we felt, even though we know individually that a lot of what we do is science-based, it works, right? We need to show that it works. You know, we can't be lazy in that way. We have to demonstrate the efficacy and the effectiveness of our systems, right, that we use. And so that's why we developed the degree programs. And one of the things that we do is use these 6 root causes. Now, what are they? First of all, and again, I need to explain a little bit more, because I think it's important for the audience to understand, right? So in traditional medicine, right, we basically manage and treat disease, right? We wait until it's too late, and then we come in with the big guns, right, and try to fix this. We know that doesn't work, right? Especially with chronic health issues, which is about 80% of all the doctor visits have to do with chronic health issues, not just physical, but emotional, right? Mindset and so on. So the knowing, right, that there are certain root causes, that's what we have been focusing on to develop. So basically, there are stress. One of the main ones is obviously stress. Another one, which most of you know, is our emotional state, right? Basically, how do we feel in terms of our emotions, right? Energy in motion in our body. Another one is, the third one is specifically our mindset or our thoughts, our habitual thoughts. And I go into all of these later in more detail. The number 4 is about social, which is probably the most underestimated. The impact of our environment is tremendous, which includes relationships, the physical environment, and so on. Number 5 is basically the lifestyle, which includes things like what we eat, how we exercise, right? These are kind of the 2 main ones. And obviously also the connection to our environment, social, and also how we manage stress. And then number 6, in a way, is our body, right? There are obviously, physical, environmental situations that affect our body. But I think that the main thing, what I'd like to address, and most of you probably have heard about this, so maybe nothing new, right? But the reality is, this is just the start. Because our body is so brilliant. It's amazing, right? Once we know what these root causes are and how that connects with our environment, right? How we think, how we feel, how we deal with stress, what we eat, how we exercise. Once we know that, and into very specific type of symptoms, it's brilliant. And what we do in our university, right, and also with Healthy Wealthy, which is, by the way, is this new platform that we developed. And I tell you towards the end or later why we did it, because the problem is even a lot of us have enough information about healthy living. We still have a lot of symptoms. We still have chronic health issues. We still seem to not be able to actually resolve them. And there's one major reason why. And I'm going to talk about that later. So back to the 6 root causes. In mind-body medicine, natural medicine, we talk about stress, right? We talk about mind-body. There's this mind-body connection, but it's very vague. So if I would, you and your audience, if I would ask, so suddenly you have eczema on your skin, on the right side, right hand of your skin, right? It just appeared a couple of days ago, right? Why is that happening? The questions that we all really ask, consciously or unconsciously, right, are, why is this happening? Why is it happening now, right? What's causing it? I don't know. I didn't do anything. And we get frustrated. Then we go to one therapist, another one, a traditional lifestyle or health coach, and they all pretty much have similarities, but typically we do not get the answers specifically. And so with these 6 root causes, we also call it root cause health coaching. It's very specific. It's amazing once we know. So every organ tissue, every part of our body is meaningful. It's brilliant. It's highly intelligent. It's there because it needs to be there. It does something for us, not just biology. Simple example, like our stomach, right, digests food. But obviously not just that, right? It digests also emotions, life situations, social situations.
So Johannes Fisslinger. So I appreciate.
Say Johannes, that's much better.
All right, Johannes. So Johannes, for our audience, so you are identifying the 6 major causes of all chronic illness as stress, emotions, our habitual thoughts and mindset, the social impact of our environment, our lifestyle, how we eat and exercise, and then our body. Now, what's interesting about this to me, as a medical intuitive healer with 30 years experience in natural healing at age 64, the way that I look at when I do a medical intuitive reading, I look at what's going on the physical level, what's going on the energetic level, which includes the acupuncture system and the breath and the chakras, the emotions, which are the largest part because emotions can shut down any physiological process. Again, I agree with you, your mindset, and then also what's happening at the soul level. because in my humble opinion, we are souls having a human experience, and your soul directs absolutely everything that is going on with you. So similar but different. So Johannes, I'd like to go into these in greater detail. So can you explain number 6, the body? So when you're talking about the root cause as being the body, what do you mean by this? Is this genetic predisposition? What are you referring to?
Well, there's two components to this. One is obviously like physical accidents, things that happen physically to us, right? And so we always have to pay attention to that, right? Obviously. But what I'm really trying to say is, and that's based on empirical study, many of our PhD students write research projects about that. So there is a direct connection, and that's the uniqueness, a direct connection between specific organs in our body, specific stressors. It's not random, right? There's a very specific stressor that triggers us into a disease process, if you want to call it, or a body symptom reaction. So that stress trigger also.
If I may interrupt and share for our audience. So one of the things that we know from Chinese medicine is that every organ and every muscle and every acupuncture meridian has emotions associated with it. So someone could say to Johannes and myself, oh, I have neck pain. And that immediately tells us some probable emotional causes, right? Or my left foot hurts. And it's like, oh, that person's got spiritual exhaustion. Or my right foot hurts. That's physical exhaustion. Or I've got liver issues. That's anger. So that's what Johannes is referring to, that specific organs and specific parts of the body have emotions where they're typically stored. And as we study the mind-body connection and see how our thoughts and our emotions actually cause a lot of the illness or prevent a lot of that healing, that is what he is referring to. So at the body level, you're referring to accidents and specific organs that have sort of, we'll call those particular programs, or like pancreatic cancer. That's going to be associated with low self-esteem, right? Stomach has to do with contentment.
Well, see, this is like, I'm calling this the Louis Hay kind of knowledge, so to speak, which is mostly based intuitive, or like how you do it in terms of the medical intuitive, right? But see, the thing is, there is something which we call organ, mind, brain anatomy, which is way beyond that, because being intuitive is wonderful. But think about it, right? Everybody listening. If you go to a doctor, like you need a surgery because of an accident, right? And that doctor doesn't know anatomy, would you go there?
No.
Very unlikely, right? But the problem we have in our field, and I'm kind of this big field, integrative, natural, lifestyle medicine, functional medicine, whatever you call it, right? This more holistic type of field. We don't have something like anatomy that traditional medicine has. And that's the missing point. That's why we're so fragmented, right? And the reason is, and I did this so many times, one client goes to 5, 10 practitioners, they share 10 different reasons why this is happening. There is no unifying field of practice, of science. And that's what organ, mind, brain anatomy is that we teach at Lifestyle Prescription University. So it's like anatomy, biology, right? Our physical body, but we add the mind part, which is stress, emotions, thoughts, social also, and the mind and the brain, right? Because it's all about evolutionary processes that we go through. And so if you don't mind, I'd like to continue before, as I said before, because that is really a major, major difference to even Chinese medicine. The closest what we do is Chinese medicine, right? In a sense, because there's a connection between emotions and specific organs, but that's still vague. The body is even more specific, right? So again, every organ, part, tissue in our body is connected to a stressor, to an emotion, a specific emotion, right? Not random emotions, a specific thought, and these habitual thoughts. We all know what that is, right? Suddenly pops into our head, something pops into our head. Where's that coming from? Well, that is because we've been just triggered by a life situation, we feel an emotion, and at the same time, we have thoughts in our minds, and our perception of the social environment changes, right? And I'll give you a couple examples in a minute. And so knowing what these are for every single organ tissue in our body is mind-blowing. We have these amazing charts, right? That also, well, we have it written down because I help coaches use it all the time. Let me give you an
And I
example that
use
makes it more
charts as
transparent.
well. I use charts as well in my work, and I have piles of anatomy books that I use when I do my work. So, Johannes, what exactly is organ, mind, brain anatomy? That sounds fascinating. Tell us more.
It is. And to me, that's the foundation that in many years or some years, all the practitioners, even medical practitioners, use it, right? It's the foundation. It's the next step. Anatomy is one, biology or physiology and anatomy. And then, well, every doctor I talk to, and I talk to so many, they know the impact of emotions and stress, and they know that, right? But there is no model to kind of, what do I do to grasp it, right? So let me give you one doctor's example that in US and Arizona, busy practice. He knows organ, mind, brain anatomy, right? Which is kind of the next level, the next step to mind-body connection, which is very vague, right? So a client comes in with this skin eczema. He's like, looking at the chart and knows that, well, that part of the body, why do we have that part of the body, right? That's a question to the audience. Most say skin is for protection. Actually, not really. The second part of the skin, the dermis skin, is for protection, but the top layer is very thin skin. That one is for touch, right? I feel you, I touch you. It's kinesthetic sensation, like feeling others around us, or energy, whatever we feel. Now, if I experience a traumatic event or a highly stressful event that is unexpected for me, I don't know how to deal with that, right? And the conflictive theme is about a loss of touch. Example, divorce. Suddenly somebody disappears in our life. Kids, for example, have to go to school out of the nice, safe environment at home. Another sibling comes along, right? And suddenly they don't feel connected to their parents anymore. It's very typical when babies are born. They have very often skin issues because suddenly they're ripped away from the mom, which is the most important thing. That's like life-threatening, survival-threatening. So whatever the purpose of that organ tissue is, in this case, the top layer, epidermis skin, is about touch. If we experience a loss of touch, a separation, now our body starts to react. Now, but important, it doesn't react because there's a problem. It actually is helping us. It's a typical stress reaction. It's like the same thing, right? If a tiger runs after us, we need energy. We need to kick all the hormones, all the stress hormones need to kick in so we can run faster, right? And the same thing happens with all our body system, whatever we experience in life. We cannot separate life from our body, from organ, mind, brain. It's impossible.
And with that,
That's what we're basically trying to do. We separate things. And even in our field, right, we separate, now I do only emotion. Emotion is never alone. Emotion is always connected to a trigger. Something triggers me into that anger or sadness or whatever. And then I think about this all the time. And my perception to the environment changes. Suddenly I see only angry people, right?
Yes, and with that, let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors, and we'll be right back with Johannes Fisslinger, the founder of Lifestyle Prescriptions University, and we're talking today about the 6 root causes of all illness. Hang in there, and we'll be right back.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
This is Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author, here today with Johannes Fisslinger. We're talking about the 6 root causes of disease, which are, according to Johannes, stress, emotions, mindset, our habitual thoughts, our social impact, and the impact of our environment, lifestyle, and our physical body. So, Johannes Fisslinger, I really love what you're saying. And so many people, when they come to think about natural healing, they think about exercise and eating well. And that much is extremely well known. If you want to learn about how to eat to heal any illness, that information is widely available. I really appreciate that you're talking about environment, because one of the things that I always point out to my clients is that environment is the most powerful factor. And the example that I give is the orchids in my healing room. And you could take the most gorgeous orchid, put it in the dark, not water it, and it would die. So share with us more about the root cause of our environment and social. Tell us more about that factor.
Very, very, very important. Very important, right? And even in lifestyle medicine, which is highly researched, there's so much research now on the social aspect of health. One thing I want to say, though, quickly, is it's not just social, right? That's still a perception that many of us have also in the professional field. It's a unit. We cannot separate. Now, even with the 6 root causes, right? We have to talk about it. You have to say that's an emotion, but it's never alone, right? So it's always connected with this biological intelligence that reacts our environment. We experience our environment, right? It's never really the environment directly. I mean, many times it is. Let's say there's war or there's situations that are horrible, right? That we can't, there's no escape, right? But in our modern society, it's mostly our perception. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, we are at work and we just feel so down because somebody looked at me a certain way, and then I have heart palpitations next day, mm-hmm. right? Because I perceive this as a threatening type of environmental situation. And again, there are real environmental situations like bad air, bad water, right? Very stressful, like inner city kind of environments. The pressure is so high, right? It's danger. I could be killed anytime. These are real, right? And then what the body does, what we as human beings do as a survival mechanism, right? Because we still have that in us, this biological survival mechanism. And that's the whole idea, the whole point, that we need to become observers and then let that go, perceive things differently. And like in healthcare, we have options. We always have options, right? We have options ourselves, how to look at things differently. How, for example, if I'm in a relationship, let's take a simple example that we're all experiencing, right? We can look at that situation, at that dynamics in a positive way, or it could be totally stressful to us. In any case, once we step back, and ideally, a good, well-trained health coach or practitioner can help to see options. How else can we think, right? Instead of these monkey mind kind of thoughts that come in again and again, and they drive us crazy with the emotion that pops up at the same time. Yes. And then like we just look at a person or environment, and suddenly we're triggered into the stress, which then also has physical symptoms.
Right. And I can give some examples. I remember years ago working with a lady who had chronic neck pain. Well, as it turned out, she was sitting in a very twisted way at her desk, and she was always trying to avoid her boss. So her body was literally sitting in a twisted position for about 8 hours a day. I'm like, that is it. Another example of environment is many people are lonely. They feel disconnected, and they feel disconnected from a spiritual family, spiritual community, right? And then you mentioned war. Lots of people are in situations where the environment itself is overpowering for their health, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, why people underestimate it, because we're so used to it. But I think one big learning that I think for all of us that is just very transformational is when we start to realize kind of energetically, right? We as an energetic being with thoughts, emotions, perceptions, and so on, different habits, right? We cannot separate ourselves from our environment, right?
And so
So the
this
only thing we can do is basically change our internal perception, how we deal with environments, with stressful situations, right?
yeah.
Stress happens, stuff happens all the time, but how we react is
Yes.
something we can
Amen.
change.
And here at the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio, we've had numerous feng shui experts on. And in my work, I talk about geopathic stress, right?
Mhm.
And so this is everything from war to fluorescent lights to EMFs. EMFs are a major disruptor of our brain waves and our heart rhythms. And in our modern society, people are chemicals in the environment. So geopathic stress is a huge one that is an unacknowledged stressor by many health coaches, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I want to say one thing that I noticed. I've been in the yoga community, healthy living community for like 35 years, a long time, and I've noticed there's a tendency to try to protect ourselves from these things. We see also politically, and the US especially, right? It's like whatever we don't like, we say, no, that's not good. We don't want that, right? There's so many ways we can see this now worldwide, actually. And I think that's not going to work because it's like we are in resistance to something. The much better way is build resilience. I remember a long time ago, I was very super sensitive to energy, right? So I was very careful not bad energies coming to me. Now it's like, it doesn't matter because as long as I don't go in resonance, as long as I just let it go through, I don't allow the environment to trigger me into something, then it doesn't matter. So big call for everyone out there, build resilience. Don't run away. You cannot run away, right? I mean, if it's relationships, if it's jobs, whatever, look at it, right? With awareness, that's the difference. The cerebellum in the center of our brain, right? It's this reactive mind, this reactive brain. But the moment we put it into a frontal cortex, we observe, we become aware, right? Then we can make changes. So resilience is really what's going to work.
I really love that point. I myself, I have an organic garden. I refuse to use any toxic chemicals in my garden, but I can't do anything about what my neighbors do, right? So that's great. How develop psychological resilience.
Yeah, physical resilience, and obviously all the lifestyle medicine and health coaching protocols, right? That's obviously very, very good. One thing I want to address quickly also, which I started saying before at the beginning, actually, why we developed Healthy Wealth. Because about a year ago, we had our Lifestyle Medicine Summit, which is an online summit, free summit. I hope you send everybody there in October. You can be part of it, hopefully. We had 55,000 people. This year, we had probably about 100,000 people that attend the free event. And afterwards, I noticed, I've been doing this, and actually some of the speakers, the Kaiser Permanente CEO for 30 years, Robert Pearl, said the same thing. Healthcare actually goes backwards, meaning there is not a lot of improvements, not a lot of like that integrative healthy lifestyle medicine flows and becomes more mainstream. It actually went backwards. And I think that we know all the reasons, right? It's all about the money, the power, and all these things. But I think what you realize then, the current healthcare system is what it is. To fight against it is not going to work, right? So we said, what we need to do is basically develop something new. And that's what Healthy Wealthy is. We said, we step away from that because the reality is this. With the internet, right? We know everything. We can look up everything. We know all the diets, all the exercises, but what's the problem? We don't do it.
Yes. And so Mother Teresa said, don't take me to an anti-war protest, take me to a peace protest.
Exactly.
So we're not going to change the economics, but we can share the information about the 6 root causes of illness and how we can take control of the way we feel with natural healing. And with that, let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. And we'll be right back with Johannes Fisslinger, the founder of Lifestyle Prescriptions University.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. We're here today talking with Johannes Fisslinger about the 6 root causes of disease, which in his professional opinion include stress, emotions, our mindset, habitual thoughts, our social impact of the environment, lifestyle, and our physical body. So Johannes Fisslinger, what I find is that one of the hardest areas to work with people on is actually their mindset. That's my observation, because it's almost like people's mindset is almost cemented. It's like life sucks. The world is, this evil, dangerous place, which you brought up. Don't be too sensitive. Develop psychological resilience. Know that you can handle everything that has been put in front of you. So how do you recommend, when people realize that their habitual thoughts are affecting their health, how do you recommend that people go about changing their habitual thoughts?
Great point. And I totally agree with you. And I think the problem is that most of us in our fields, we're kind of vague, right? And what I noticed with clients, right, when they come to us, to our root cause health coaches at the university or Healthy Wealthy, that they're trained in organ, mind, brain anatomy, that we talked about the 6 root causes. So if somebody comes with an eczema or with the shoulder pain right here or the liver or whatever organ, right? If we say, well, try this vitamin, do this, do homeopathy, and also so on, right? It works typically, but it's not satisfying for most clients. Versus if a client asks me about, let me give you an example, like lower back pain. That's something I had, right, long time ago, about 20 plus years ago. So bad that I thought I'd end up in a wheelchair, right? It was horrible. And it came back with vengeance, and it got a little better. And I tried everything from every natural healer to traditional to whatever, right? The moment I realized what was that root cause, stress trigger, right, would trigger me again and again into the stress of my hip, basically lower back. What was my specific emotion? That because it was major anger, big anger at that time. And the thought was always, like you said, it's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, right? It's like I didn't have the strength to change the situation. At least that's what I thought. The moment I did change that life situation, 2 weeks later, it was gone, never appeared. And I had it for 5 years before that, horribly bad, right? That's how quick shifts can happen. Now, in terms of the mindset, I think our strategy is that first you need to know the specific specific habitual thought. Mm-hmm. Because most people have so many. If, for example, that lower back that I had on the right side was a relationship situation, right? And I couldn't get out, so to speak, and I felt weak. Knowing that the skeletal system or the lower back, the bone where I had this issue, is about self-worth. Mm-hmm. It's about strength, self-value, strength, core strength. And because it was on my right side, right? Has to do with the handedness, the dominant side. It was about partner type of situation. So a root cause health coach would have known right from the start. So they can basically, what's happening, you have this needle in the haystack that you're trying to resolve, right? That triggers you again and again. If you know how to ask and where to look to decode our body, here's the needle. You take that needle out and the body then automatically repairs, auto-regulation, homeostasis, self-healing is what our body does best if you allow it to happen. And so you ask about what do we typically do? Depends, but very often you have to reduce the emotional stress level first. Because if someone has these, let's say, I'm not good enough, right? I'm a bad mother, or like why is this person doing it to me all the time, right? It's invading my space, territorial type of fights, right? If they have that thought, that conflictive thought, plus a high emotion, it's almost impossible to make a change. So we need to bring out that energetic stress, the emotional stress first, and emotional energy, reduce that, which is actually rather easy to do. It's pretty much after one session, you can bring an emotion down to a zero, like, if you know what you do as a coach or a practitioner. And then the next thing is, though, then you have to create awareness of that habitual thought and then practice the new thoughts, practice a new habitual thought. And we do this through our micro habit lifestyle prescription process, which basically integrate new habits into your life. That's long-term the only best way to really make sustainable changes in our lives.
I love that story about your lower back. And I agree with you. I remember years ago, I had pain in my left wrist. And like the physical stuff didn't work, but the thought was, I'm trapped by my work. And when I changed the thought, the wrist pain went away. So this is real. What Johannes and I are talking about is real. And I agree with you, Johannes. You have to identify what is the specific thought. And while we're talking about mindset, in my work, one of the things that I look at is whether or not a client is willing to get better. If someone's willing to get better, I'm like, okay, well, here's the lifestyle. Here's the way you need to eat. Here's the way you need to move. Here's the connections, right? In my work, I talk about the 25 different payoffs for staying sick, fat, unwell, and so on. Does the root cause system address resistance to getting well and payoffs which are secondary gains for staying stuck?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always, as a good practitioner, we have to look at that, But I think, whenever someone kind of improves a little bit, but then stops, or they just kind of don't come back to a practitioner, right? Because they just, I don't want to deal with that, right? There's always secondary reasons why this is happening. And that's also a reason, right? I think that to be honest, I think the complementary medicine system needs to change as much as the traditional. I hope nobody is taking that, I hope I don't get a shitstorm for that.
Johannes, I agree with you, because in my work, I work on the physical, energetic, emotional, mental, and spiritual all at the same time. And when you work on what I call the 5 levels of healing, then things can unwind very, very quickly. But I agree with you that natural medicine tends to be a bit fragmented. You go to a psychologist, talk about your childhood. You go to an acupuncturist, receive acupuncture. You go to a physical therapist who gives you exercise, right? You go to a church or a synagogue or a mosque and deal with your soul. So how does the root cause system address what's happening on the soul level?
Well, everything. I mean, our body is our temple, right? I mean, it's as simple as that. Now, what we realize, right, how much our biology, our body is a representation of who we are, right? And that's a tough message sometimes, right? If you're really sick or have a health issue, to accept that is actually the biggest step. And I don't mean accept that that's what it is and nothing can be changed. First, like, I'm here right now with all the symptoms I have. Okay, I'm accepting that the now, but then now I can move forward. Right now, I change my habits. Right, I go one step at a time. We use at Lifestyle Prescriptions this micro habit approach because we found that to work really well. Except someone like you and others that are really trained, right? With one session, like the symptom disappears. It doesn't mean though that we don't have to change or take responsibility for our lives, right? So micro habit means that we implement small. It's better to have a small little habit that we integrate and do it well. It could be as simple as, for 7 days, I do not drink sodas. Instead, water or tea, right? That's kind of simple, right? Or it's like, I just take 1 minute a day and breathe deeply.
Yes. And Johannes, you're bringing
Consistently. That is worth so much as a starting point.
Approaches. I remember years ago listening to Candace Pert, the co-discoverer of endorphins, and she said, if you want to know what's going on your unconscious mind, just look down at your body, right? And someone who's highly trained, such as Johannes and myself, can look at a body and read exactly what's going on with you, right? On every level. And so we have to understand that your body is constantly expressing what's going on with you, your emotions, your mind, what's happening at the soul level. And then I love your micro habit approach. There's a word in Japanese called kaizen, and that is the art of changes with small steps. So every day, take one more step. If you're wanting to lose weight, just eat one less bite of food, right?
Exactly. And, and that's what we're moving into or bringing into healthcare right now. I like to give you an example, right? With Healthy Wealthy, because I think it's important. There's a lot of health coaches, practitioners out there. There's a couple of problems that we have. One is not so much that the traditional healthcare doesn't know that they have no solution for chronic health issues. They know. I talk to so many doctors, they all know, but they don't know how to implement it. So what we focus on, our specialties on implementation. How can we implement new systems that help not just clients, millions of people around the world, but also we can bring it into healthcare or find new strategies. And so Healthy Wealth is a platform that basically online, mobile app and all that, right? But the key element is there is a coach that is directly connected to a client. There's nobody between, no middleman, right? The client hires, so to speak, a coach, and there's group chat, there is video, personal consultation, right? I mean, the whole thing, all the technology. We use technology to make it really easy for a client and a coach to connect. Now, the big difference is it's not like we do it right now where complementary or natural functional medicine, right, is very expensive. It's only for the rich and famous, really, right? I mean, who can spend hundreds of dollars every month to get to a coach, especially if it's not paid by the insurance companies, right? Which it is, and I think it won't soon. So a Healthy Wealthy coach is about $30 a month. Now, why we can do that? Because we cut out middlemen and we have a specific way of using group coaching, chat support, and many other things that make it so effective. Another thing that we do, we focus on habit change only. Because, as I said before, we know everything. If we just look up online, we know we can find everything. But the implementation is the problem, right? I know people that have written hundreds of books, but they didn't get better one bit. We have to change our internal habits, our biology, right? And that's what a health coach really at its core needs to do. And the other point I wanted to make is at a hospital in New York that we work with right now, the Healthy Wealthy Coach is a pilot project for 100 clients, patients. The strategy, the doctors in there, they had a bit of a hard time to figure out how to implement lifestyle medicine, right? Such a complicated network in hospitals and so on. So we gave them a very easy solution, and that works amazingly, which is the doctor, the physician, patients come to the doctor, right? So he writes typically his RX prescription. Now we provide him with a lifestyle prescription. Suddenly, the doctor has a choice. And think about it. This is such a minor habit change. Just that's going to transform healthcare. Because now the doctor can say, oh, if you have a chronic health issues, actually, you could go the traditional route, but I have an option for you, which is lifestyle medicine and health coach. He writes a prescription, a lifestyle prescription, sends that client, that patient to the health coach, Healthy Wealthy Coach. The coach takes care of it. The doctor is happy because he has less patients, is not burned out, and is not frustrated because he works his ass off, so to speak. But the health coach is happy too because he's focused, he earns well, which I think is very important, right? The problem is that a lot of our practitioners in our field, holistic, they do it a bit on the side here and there, and then they get frustrated because they don't make enough to actually have a full-time practice. So the health coach then takes care of 100, 200 clients, does a really great job. And we had just a research study, which is mind-blowing. One of our doctors, I just want to say quickly, if you don't mind, Dr. Yamani in Florida, big practice in lifestyle medicine, and we had 50 clients, I think about 10 coaches or so, I forgot actually how many, but 4 months, they all were retirees in their 65 to 80s. Medicare had no idea about health coaching, natural medicine, anything, right? The outcome was stunning. First of all, inflammation went down. Weight was going down somewhat. The big difference, 60%, 65% improvement was the PHQ-9 marker, which is depression, mindset, like no life purpose anymore. It improved 60%. And the second one, which healthcare is totally interested in, obviously, and that's why the study was done, emergency visits, HR visits, office visits to the doctor went down by about 70%, which means huge savings for healthcare, right? And you get better, life are transformed, and that's the way. And I think we have to show these results, right? And then it's automatically actually what's going to happen. A lot of doctors that are frustrated with the system because they are great people, right? Healthcare, they're great people, but they are frustrated with the system and they don't know how to get out.
All right. So Johannes Fisslinger, final question. So
already?
According to you, there's 6.
We're having so much fun.
Exactly. 6 root causes of all illness: stress, emotions, mindset, habitual thoughts, social impact, lifestyle, and our body. So I'm going to challenge you. If you had, we're just going to say the average client, right? We're not going to even pick a disease. What is the number one change or improvement you would have them do in each area? So let's start with stress. What would be the number one change that you would have someone do to alleviate stress?
Become aware. Again, I'm generalizing here, right? Simple, but I think everybody can do that, right? Step back. Okay, let me make it even more specific. So if you feel very stressed, then observe your body. The moment you feel stress kicks in, stop and just step back and say, what just happened? What just triggered me into stress?
Okay, and on the
Works
emotional,
amazingly. Write a journal about it. And then work with a really good health coach, a healthy, wealthy coach.
Okay. And what's the number one thing you would have someone do with their emotions?
Again, and I'm talking about working with someone that is trained in reducing emotions, helping you to reduce. That's number one always, because that's so fast. But if you do it yourself, there's like different methods. One is just breathing. You breathe it down very consciously, right? Do very conscious breathing. But the problem is we don't observe it. We have to first observe that we actually have that emotion, right? Awareness is always number one. But then you can breathe it down if you know the tapping methods, energy psychology, that works really well with emotions, right? There's a lot of different techniques out there. But first become aware of the emotion and then kind of do breathing techniques that relax you, do yoga, do things that energetically reduce the charge, because it's energy that is in there, in that organ tissue, right, that needs to be released.
And what's the number one thing that you would have someone change with their habitual thoughts?
That's actually easy, theoretically.
Okay.
Which means don't take your mind seriously. Don't believe the thoughts you have. You are not your thoughts. Just if you say that whenever you have a conflictive thought, you say, I'm not my thoughts.
Yeah.
They just kick in because whatever reason, I don't know yet maybe, but just create distance. Say, no, that's not me. I am me. This is just a thought that popped into my head because of past experiences and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, Einstein said
your thoughts seriously.
Einstein said the most important question is whether or not you consider the universe a friendly place.
Exactly. And
And
maybe just to address the other one, the social, it's kind of the same thing, right? What just observe what's draining energy, what's in your environment stressing you, and change it.
Mm,
I mean, we're also afraid to make changes. I think in almost all the cases, what's coming after we change the situation is a lot better.
yeah. And then final, real quick for our audience, because we're running out of time. What's one lifestyle change you would have everyone make?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
What one lifestyle change would you have everyone make?
The one that is the right habit for you right now. It's everybody's different,
Everybody's different.
everybody's different.
And what about the physical
Start.
part?
I think that's the main thing that we do. So basically, what we could do right now for the audience, right? Just takes a minute. So think about, just kind of tune in a little bit, right? And just very spontaneously, what's the one habit, if you would start it right now, that would really make you feel good, right? You know it's helpful, it's healthy for you, it's good for you. Pick one, small, right? Write that down, and then just make sure you know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and why you do it. The biggest problem is we don't have enough motivation. So increase your motivation. Why would you want to be better? Why do you want to be happier? Why do you want to be healthier? Why do you want to live longer? Right? Work on that why, the motivation, and then write it down on a piece of paper, right on top, my lifestyle prescription. That's a prescription you give yourself, and practice it. Make it 7 days, 1 day, whatever it is, short, right? Because you want to build up your habit improvement muscle.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how to heal yourself naturally. Our guest today has been Johannes Fisslinger, the one and only founder of Lifestyle Prescription University. You can find out more about Johannes Fisslinger and his life-changing work at his two websites, healthywealthy.net and lifestyleprescriptions.tv. And remember, when you look at the root cause and look at the whole of your life, you can heal yourself naturally. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Natural Healing Show. Keep it natural with the Natural Healing Show.